I watched my father take his last breath at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. By midnight, police were reading me my rights for his murder. My stepmother, Victoria, stood in the hallway, tears streaming down her face, playing the devastated widow. I'd find out later she'd been rehearsing that performance for 6 months. I'm Emily. I'm 31, an ICU nurse at Memorial Hospital in Philadelphia. Before all this happened, my life was pretty straightforward. Long shifts, terrible hospital coffee, the occasional night out with coworkers. Nothing special, nothing dramatic. My dad got sick 2 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave him 4 months, maybe 6 if we were lucky. He lasted 18. Stubborn man, my father. Always was. That's when Victoria came into the picture. Well, she'd been around for 2 years by then, married my dad 6 months after his diagnosis. I wasn't thrilled about it, but Dad seemed happy. She was younger, 38 to his 67, but she took care of him, made him laugh. I figured, who was I to judge? The man was dying. If she made his last days better, that was enough for me. God, I was so stupid. You know that feeling when something's off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That's where this really starts, and trust me, it gets so much worse. The week before Dad died, his lawyer came by the house. Mr. Holland, James Holland, actually. He'd handled Dad's affairs for 20 years. I was there visiting, helping Dad with his medication schedule. Victoria made herself scarce, said she needed to run errands. Dad pulled me aside after James left. His hands were shaking. The cancer had eaten him down to nothing by then, barely 90 pounds on a 6-foot frame. Emily, he said, I fixed a mistake. With the will. I didn't ask what he meant. Honestly, I didn't want to know. Talking about wills meant accepting he was dying. I wasn't ready for that. Victoria came home an hour later with groceries, made Dad his favorite soup, kissed his forehead, told me, he wants you taken care of, sweetheart. You're his daughter. That's what matters. I actually smiled at her. Thought maybe I'd misjudged her all along. The night it happened started quiet. I'd taken the week off work to be with Dad full-time. Hospice said it could be any day now. He was sleeping more, eating less. The end was close. Victoria had been fussing over him all evening. Around 10:30, she came into the living room where I was half watching TV, half dozing. I'm making Robert some special herbal tea, she said. For the pain. His regular medication isn't helping anymore. I should have asked what herbs, should have checked, but I was exhausted. 3 nights of sleeping in a chair by Dad's bed. My brain wasn't working right. That's sweet of you, I said. 20 minutes later, she called me upstairs. Her voice was calm, too calm. Emily, can you give us some privacy? I need to help him with his medication. I went downstairs, made myself coffee, scrolled through my phone. The next thing I knew, Victoria was screaming my name. I ran upstairs. Dad was unconscious. His breathing was shallow, rattling. I checked his pulse, thready, weak. My training kicked in immediately. Call 911, I told Victoria. Now! She already had her phone out, but what she said next made my blood freeze. Something's wrong. Emily gave him something. He was fine until she... What? I stared at her. Victoria, I wasn't even in the room. You were with him. You gave him the tea. But she was already talking to the 911 operator, crying, hysterical. My husband's dying. His daughter was alone with him. She gave him tea. I think she poisoned him. I didn't give him anything, I screamed. You made the tea. You were with him. Dad died 43 minutes later. The paramedics couldn't save him. I held his hand while his heart stopped. Victoria stood in the corner, sobbing into her phone. The police arrived while the paramedics were still working on him. 2 officers. They separated us immediately, took statements in different rooms. Detective Marcus Reed showed up 20 minutes later. Tall guy, maybe 45, with cold eyes that looked at me like I was already guilty. Ms. Carson, I need you to tell me exactly what happened tonight. I explained everything. The tea. Victoria asking me to leave. Finding Dad unconscious. So you weren't in the room when he consumed the beverage? No, but Victoria made it. I didn't... Your stepmother says you prepared tea and insisted she leave so you could administer it privately. My stomach dropped. That's a lie. Why would I? You're a nurse, correct? You have access to medications? Yes, but I would never. And your father recently changed his will. How did he know that? It had been less than a week. Had Victoria told him? I don't know the details of his will, I said carefully. That was between him and his lawyer. Reed's expression didn't change. We'll be in touch, Miss Carson. Don't leave town. The next 3 days were a nightmare. Dad's body was sent for autopsy. Victoria filed an emergency restraining order against me, claimed I'd threatened her, that she feared for her safety. The court granted it. Just like that, I was barred from my childhood home, from Dad's funeral arrangements, from everything. I was suspended from the hospital. Pending investigation, they said. Patient safety protocol. Like I was some kind of danger. Victoria moved into the estate immediately, started going through Dad's things. I drove by once, couldn't help myself, and saw her loading boxes into a truck. My mother's china, Dad's books, everything. The will reading happened 4 days after Dad died. James Holland called me personally. Emily, you need to come to my office. There's something you need to know. I sat in his conference room, hands shaking. Victoria was there with her own lawyer, some shark in a $1,000 suit. James opened the envelope. Robert Carson's last will and testament, executed 8 days before his death, leaves his entire estate to his daughter, Emily Marie Carson. The room went silent. That's $4.2 million, James continued. The house, all accounts, investments, personal property, everything. I couldn't breathe. $4.2 million. Dad left me everything. Victoria stood up so fast her chair fell over. That's not possible. Robert's previous will left everything to me. He was coerced. Emily manipulated him while he was dying and vulnerable. Her lawyer jumped in. We're contesting this will on grounds of undue influence and lack of testamentary capacity. James looked at me. The estate is frozen until this is resolved. Probate could take months, maybe years. I walked out in a daze. $4 million I couldn't touch, a house I couldn't enter, and a stepmother who wanted me in prison. It got worse. 2 weeks later, Detective Reed showed up at my apartment with a warrant. They searched everything, tore the place apart. In my bathroom cabinet, they found an empty bottle of liquid morphine. That's not mine, I said immediately. I don't have access to… Wait, that's from the hospital. Reed held it up in a gloved hand. Hospital inventory shows this bottle missing from the ICU medication room, your unit. I didn't take it. I would never… Security footage shows your badge accessing the medication room at 2:04 a.m. last Tuesday. You were off duty. My vision blurred. I was home, asleep. I don't know how… Your fingerprints are on this bottle, Ms. Carson. They took me to the station, put me in an interrogation room. Hours of questions. The same ones, over and over. Where was I? Why was my badge used? How did the morphine get into my apartment? I didn't have answers. None that they believed anyway. Victoria's lawyer filed a wrongful death civil suit. $4.2 million plus damages. The DA's office started talking about murder charges. I sat in that interrogation room watching them lay out the evidence. My badge access, my fingerprints, the morphine bottle found in my apartment. Everything pointed to me. And then Detective Reed slid one more photo across the table. Victoria at Dad's funeral, wearing my mother's diamond necklace, the one Dad said he'd hidden away for me, the one I'd been looking for since Mom died 12 years ago. She stood there in her black dress, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, my mother's diamonds glittering at her throat. That's when I knew. This wasn't grief. This was a heist. And I was the patsy. Was I wrong to suspect my own stepmother? Or should I have seen this coming? Keep reading, because what I found in Dad's room changed everything. The necklace haunted me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Victoria wearing Mom's diamonds like they were hers, like she'd earned them. Dad promised me that necklace. The night before Mom's funeral, he'd held it up to the light. Someday, Emmy, when you're ready, Your mom wanted you to have this. Now Victoria paraded around in it. Posted photos on Facebook with some bullshit caption about honoring Robert's memory. I couldn't prove anything yet. The police had their narrative. The DA was building a case. My own lawyer kept talking about plea deals. They have evidence, Emily. Your badge, your fingerprints. Maybe we can negotiate manslaughter instead of murder. Get you 8 to 10 years instead of life. 8 to 10 years for something I didn't do. But here's the thing. I'm an ICU nurse. I know how to read charts, track medications, document everything. If Victoria wanted to frame me for murder, she'd made one critical mistake. She underestimated what a nurse knows about evidence. 3 months before Dad died, I'd installed a camera in his room. Not for anything sinister, for medical monitoring. Dad kept pulling out his IV lines at night, forgetting he was sick. The home health nurse suggested it. Said it would help track his nighttime behaviors. The camera was tiny, hidden in a bookshelf behind some old photo albums. Motion activated. Uploaded everything to cloud storage. I'd forgotten about it. Until I saw Victoria wearing that necklace. I logged into the cloud account from my motel room. Yes, motel. My apartment lease was terminated. Landlord said I was too much drama. Bad publicity. 6 weeks of footage. Hundreds of hours. I started with the night Dad died. 10:42 p.m. Victoria enters Dad's room carrying a mug. Steam rising. She closes the door behind her. The angle isn't perfect, but I can see enough. She pulls something from her pocket. A pill bottle. She crushes multiple pills on Dad's nightstand using the bottom of the mug, dumps the powder into the tea, stirs it with her finger. My hands were shaking so hard I had to pause the video. She walks to Dad's bed. He's awake, but groggy. She helps him sit up. I can't hear the audio clearly, but I can read her lips. Come on, Robert. This will help you rest. Dad's mouth moves. Resistance. Confusion. Victoria forces the mug to his lips, tips it, makes him drink. That's it. Good. Just sleep now. Everything's taken care of. She stays with him for 8 minutes, watches him fade. His movements get slower, then stop. She picks up the mug, wipes it clean with a tissue, goes to the bathroom, flushes something down the toilet. Then she stands in the doorway, fixes her hair, takes 3 deep breaths, and starts screaming for me. I watched it 4 times. Then I threw up. My father didn't just die. Victoria murdered him, premeditated, calculated. And then she framed me for it. I called James Holland at midnight. I have proof, I said, video proof. Victoria killed him. I sent him the footage. He called back 30 minutes later. Emily, Jesus, this is good. This is really good. But we need to be careful. The defense will argue chain of custody, possible tampering. It's authenticated, timestamps, metadata, everything. I know someone, security expert, former FBI. He can verify this is legitimate. I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. The next week, James filed an emergency motion, present new evidence to dismiss charges. Medical examiner Dr. Sarah Chen reviewed the footage, agreed to re-examine Dad's toxicology. There's definitely something here, she told James. The timeline matches. If those were prescription pills crushed into that tea, everything was finally coming together. The hearing was scheduled for Monday morning. James was confident. They can't ignore this, Emily. Video evidence of Victoria administering the substance that killed your father. This changes everything. Sunday night, I slept for the first time in a month. Monday morning, James called at 6 a.m. My office was broken into last night. I sat up so fast I got dizzy. What? They took my laptop, the one with the full forensic analysis of your footage. But you have backups. They hacked my cloud account, deleted everything. No. I still have the original file on my phone, I said. The defense is going to argue you manipulated mobile video. Without the expert's authentication report, without the forensic metadata analysis, it's just a video on your phone that you could have edited. The hearing happened anyway. Judge denied the motion. Insufficient authenticated evidence. Victoria's lawyer smirked at me across the courtroom. Convenient that this proof disappeared. Perhaps it never existed in the first place. Detective Reed leaned over to the prosecutor, whispered something. They both looked at me. Reed approached me after. "This looks like tampering with evidence, Ms. Carson. Fabricating proof to support your innocence?" "That's a crime!" I wanted to scream, wanted to grab him and shake him and make him see. But I just walked out. James followed. "We'll figure this out," he said. "We'll find another way." That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or your sister's next." I stared at the message, read it 3 times. Then I started laughing. Couldn't help it. Hysterical, manic laughter. I don't have a sister. My parents only had me. Only child. Anyone who knew our family would know that. Victoria didn't know. Whoever sent that text didn't know. Which meant Victoria wasn't working alone. She had help. Someone feeding her information. Someone with access to records, databases, technology. Someone who knew enough to hack James's cloud account and steal his laptop. But not enough to know I was an only child. I called James. "She has a partner, someone on the inside. Police, hospital, I don't know. But they made a mistake. They threatened a sister I don't have." James was quiet for a long moment. "That's actually good news. Mistakes mean they're sloppy. Sloppy means traceable." "Can you find them?" "I can try. But Emily, we need to be careful. If they have inside access, I know, they can see everything we do. Have you ever been framed for something you didn't do when everyone believes the lie except you? Drop a comment, because what happened next, even I didn't see coming." Victoria thought she'd won. The footage was gone. The case against me was building. She was already redecorating Dad's house. My childhood bedroom, converted to a meditation space. Posted pictures on Instagram with darn new beginnings. But here's what she didn't know. ICU nurses are trained to prepare for worst-case scenarios. We run through code blues in our sleep. We plan for equipment failures, power outages, every terrible possibility. We always have backups. And I'd made one she'd never find. The day I discovered the camera footage, before I sent it to James, I'd emailed it to my personal Gmail account, downloaded it to an encrypted USB drive, stored that drive in my locker at the hospital. Nobody knew about it, not even James. After the hearing disaster, I went to the hospital at midnight, used my old badge. They hadn't deactivated it yet. Got to my locker. The drive was still there. I called James from my car. "I have it. The original footage, unedited, with full metadata." His relief was audible. "Where?" "Safe. And I'm not telling anyone where until we're in front of a judge." Smart man didn't argue. He hired a different security expert. Cybersecurity firm out of Boston. No local connections, no ties to Philly that could be compromised. The expert authenticated everything, swore an affidavit, confirmed the footage was genuine, unaltered, metadata intact. James filed a second emergency motion, this time with evidence that couldn't disappear. While we waited for the hearing, I decided to do something crazy. I posted on social media, all my accounts. "I can't fight anymore. The truth doesn't matter. Everyone's already decided I'm guilty. Maybe it's better this way. At least in prison I won't have to see her wearing my mother's jewelry. I'm done. I give up." James nearly had a heart attack when he saw it. "What are you doing? The prosecutor will use this as an admission of guilt." "No," I said. "I'm making Victoria comfortable. Let her think she won." Overconfident people make mistakes. And boy, did she make mistakes. Victoria saw my posts, started commenting, public comments. "I forgive Emily. She's clearly sick. She needs help, not punishment." So magnanimous, so gracious. She gave another TV interview. Local news ate it up. "I don't want Emily in prison. I want her to get treatment, mental health support. Robert would want that for his daughter." Playing the bigger person, the forgiving widow. Behind the scenes, she was liquidating everything. Listed Dad's house for $1.8 million. Sold his car. The artwork. Started clearing out personal belongings. Posted photos of herself donating Dad's clothes to charity. Paying it forward. Robert's legacy. My former co-workers stopped talking to me. Hospital rumors said I was dangerous. unstable. My apartment lease got terminated. I moved to a cheap motel near the airport, $79 a night. Walls so thin I could hear the guy next door coughing. My credit cards got declined. Victoria had filed a civil asset freeze. My bank accounts frozen pending wrongful death judgment. I was alone, broke, facing murder charges, and everyone I knew had abandoned me. My aunt called one night, Dad's sister, the only family I had left. "Emily, honey, maybe you should just confess. End this nightmare. Maybe they'll be lenient if you show remorse." I hung up on her. The prosecutor fast-tracked the indictment. "Grand jury scheduled in 3 days." James called, worried. "They're rushing this. Victoria's pushing them to charge before we can present our defense." Victoria's lawyer filed a motion to exclude the camera footage. Illegal surveillance without Robert Carson's consent. If the judge agreed, everything I had would be inadmissible. Then Dr. Chen called. The medical examiner. "Mr. Holland, I found something in the re-examination." We met at her office. She pulled up Dad's toxicology report on her computer. The initial autopsy showed elevated morphine levels, expected for a cancer patient, but I looked closer. There's also Ambien and Xanax, high doses. James leaned forward. "How high?" "Lethal, when combined with morphine. This wasn't pain management. This was deliberate overdose." She pulled up the video footage, zoomed in on the pills Victoria crushed. "See the markings? That's Ambien, and that one's Xanax." "Can you confirm those were Victoria's prescriptions?" James asked. Dr. Chen nodded. "Already checked. Both bottles filled at CVS 3 days before Robert's death. Picked up by Victoria Carson." She changed the official cause of death. "Acute polypharmacy toxicity. Homicide." I actually cried, right there in her office. Someone finally believed me. The relief lasted exactly 4 hours. Victoria's lawyer responded immediately. Emily Carson had access to all those medications through her employment. New pharmacy records suddenly appeared. My hospital badge accessing the medication dispensary the night before Dad died. Victoria's Ambien and Xanax prescriptions, reported stolen 2 weeks before Dad's death. She'd filed a police report, dated and time-stamped. "Emily Carson broke into my purse and stole my prescription medications. I'm afraid she's unstable." Detective Reed used that report to support his case. This proves Emily stole Victoria's pills to cover her tracks. The grand jury indictment went forward. First-degree murder. I sat in that motel room, staring at the water-stained ceiling, wondering if I should just give up. Then James called. "My investigator found something. Victoria's financial records." "And?" "She hired a private investigator 6 months ago, 3 months before your father changed his will." My heart stopped. "What was the investigator looking for?" "You. Full surveillance, background check, daily patterns. Everything." The investigator's invoices were detailed. Photos of me leaving work, copies of my schedule, reports on my routines. Victoria had been watching me for months. James kept digging. Victoria's credit card showed purchases at spy equipment stores, badge cloning devices, keylogger software. One charge caught my eye. "Tech Shadow Security, $800. "What's that?" I asked. James's investigator traced it. "Badge cloning service. You send them someone's ID badge, they make a duplicate with full access." That's how she did it. Cloned my hospital badge, used it to access the medication room, made it look like I stole the morphine. "She's been planning this since the day your father changed his will," James said. 6 months of preparation, surveillance, equipment, setting me up piece by piece. Victoria got sloppy in her confidence. Posted an Instagram story from Dad's house. Photo of her in the master bedroom, wearing not just Mom's diamond necklace, but her earrings, her bracelet, her rings, all of it. Caption, "Moving forward, new chapter. Robert would want me to be happy. Life is too short." The comments tore her apart. "Your husband just died and you're taking selfies? This is disgusting. No respect. Those look like someone else's jewelry." Victoria deleted the post within an hour, but screenshots were everywhere. Reddit, Facebook groups, Twitter. Public opinion started shifting, slowly, but it was something. James's investigator kept digging into Victoria's phone records. What he found changed everything. 47 calls to the same number in 3 weeks, including the night of Dad's death. The number belonged to Detective Marcus Reed. "Your detective is compromised," James said. "He's been working with her." More digging. Reed and Victoria dated 5 years ago, before her marriage to Dad. They'd broken up badly, but apparently reconnected recently. Reed had gambling debts, $50,000 to various casinos, another $30,000 to a loan shark. 2 weeks before Dad died, Victoria paid off $80,000 of Reed's debts. Bank transfer, direct deposit, traceable. When James showed me the phone records, everything clicked into place. The planted evidence, the rushed investigation, the convenient discoveries that made me look guilty. Detective Reed wasn't investigating a murder. He was covering one up, and Victoria had paid him to frame me. But here's the thing about corrupt cops. They're not as smart as they think. They leave trails, get comfortable, make mistakes. And we'd just found his. What would you do if you discovered the police were in on it? Would you trust the system or fight back? Comment below, because the final showdown is about to get ugly. James filed a motion that changed everything. Dismiss the charges and investigate Detective Reed. The prosecutor's office went silent for 48 hours. Nobody returned our calls. No response to the motion. Then I got the call. Emergency hearing scheduled. Judge Harriet Morrison presiding. Morrison was a 30-year veteran, took no shit from anyone. If anyone would listen to us, it was her. Victoria's lawyer tried to block the hearing, filed 3 separate motions. Denied, denied, denied. The truth was coming out, and Victoria had no idea what was about to hit her. The courtroom was packed. Media, family, friends, Victoria's supporters, though noticeably fewer than before. Public opinion had shifted after that Instagram post. Victoria arrived in a black dress, simple, elegant, playing the grieving widow one last time. She saw me and actually smirked, still confident. Still certain she'd won. I wanted to wipe that smirk off her face. Judge Morrison entered. Everyone stood. "This is an emergency hearing regarding the case of Commonwealth versus Emily Carson. Mr. Holland, you filed this motion. Proceed." James stood, straightened his tie. "Your Honor, we have evidence that the investigation into Robert Carson's death was compromised by corruption, and that the actual killer has been manipulating the system to frame an innocent woman." Victoria's lawyer jumped up. "Your Honor, this is a desperate attempt. Sit down, counselor. You'll have your chance." Morrison's voice could cut glass. "Mr. Holland, show me what you have." James nodded to his assistant. The courtroom screens flickered on. The camera footage played, clear, damning. Victoria crushing pills, forcing Dad to drink, watching him fade. Gasps from the gallery. Someone cried out. Victoria's face drained of color. She gripped the table. "This is Victoria Carson, the defendant's stepmother, committing premeditated murder," James said. "Note the timestamp, 10:42 p.m., the night Robert Carson died." Victoria's lawyer shot to his feet. "This video is edited, manipulated. We've been through this." "No, counselor. The previous footage was stolen from my office. This is the original, authenticated by Sentinel Cybersecurity of Boston. Their expert witness is here today." The expert testified. "Metadata, timestamps, digital signatures, no tampering. Completely genuine." Victoria whispered frantically to her lawyer. He shook his head. She whispered more urgently. "Your Honor," James continued, "we have additional evidence. Financial records showing Mrs. I. Carson hired a private investigator 6 months ago to surveil Emily Carson, credit card receipts for spy equipment and badge cloning services, and phone records." The phone records appeared on screen. 47 calls between Victoria and Detective Reed. The prosecutor's face went pale. Mrs. Carson and Detective Marcus Reed had a prior romantic relationship. They dated 5 years ago. Detective Reed had significant gambling debts. Mrs. Carson paid off $80,000 of those debts 2 weeks before Robert Carson's death. Morrison leaned forward. You're alleging police corruption? Yes, Your Honor. Detective Reed was not investigating this case objectively. He was actively helping Mrs. Carson frame Emily Carson for murder. Bring Detective Reed to this courtroom, now. 2 officers left. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Victoria finally spoke. Stood up. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. Those records are fake. Emily created all of this to... Mrs. Carson, sit down and be quiet. Victoria sat. Her hands were shaking. Dr. Chin testified next. The medical examiner. Cause of death was acute polypharmacy toxicity, a lethal combination of morphine, Ambien, and Xanax. The Ambien and Xanax match prescriptions filled by Mrs. Victoria Carson 3 days before Robert Carson's death. She reported those medications stolen, Victoria's lawyer argued. The police report was filed after Mr. Carson's death and backdated in the system. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Who filed that report? Detective Marcus Reed, Your Honor. The courtroom doors opened. 2 officers brought Reed in. He looked confident at first. Then he saw the screens, the phone records, the bank transfers. Color drained from his face. Detective Reed, you're under oath. Did you have a personal relationship with Victoria Carson? Reed's jaw clenched. We dated briefly. Years ago. Did she pay off your gambling debts? That was a loan. Between friends. An $80,000 loan to the detective investigating her husband's death? How convenient. James presented more evidence. Text messages between Reed and Victoria, recovered from phone company records. Make sure you plant it where she'll find it. Badge cloning worked perfectly, left her prints everywhere. She's going to prison and no one will ever know. Reed's confidence shattered. He turned on Victoria instantly. She said it was just insurance fraud. She said Robert was dying anyway. It wasn't supposed to be murder, Victoria screamed. Shut up, Marcus. Don't say another word. She promised me $500,000 from the estate, said Emily would go to prison and we'd split the money. Morrison banged her gavel. Order! But Victoria was standing now, hysterical. He's lying. He forced me to do it. He said it was the only way. Mrs. Carson, I strongly advise you to stop talking. But she couldn't stop. The mask was completely off now. Robert was going to leave everything to Emily, after everything I did for him. 2 years of playing nurse to that old man. Mrs. Carson, I earned that money. 2 years of bedpans and medication schedules and pretending to care. Emily had everything. The perfect daughter. He worshipped her. Her lawyer tried to grab her arm. She shoved him away. That money was mine. I suffered for it. And she just got to swoop in and take it all because she's his daughter? The courtroom was dead silent. Victoria turned to me, her face twisted with rage. You don't know what it's like. Watching him leave everything to his precious daughter? I was just the replacement wife, the hired help. I stood, faced her directly. You could have just left, divorced him, walked away. A divorce settlement wasn't enough. I wanted it all. So you killed him, murdered my father, and tried to send me to prison for life. My voice was steady, calm. All those months of terror and isolation hardened into something cold and clear. You made me watch him die, thinking I was going to jail. You took everything from me. My job, my home, my reputation. You tried to take my freedom. Victoria's lawyer was pulling her back down to her seat, but I wasn't done. Your Honor, I request that Victoria Carson be arrested immediately for first-degree murder. Morrison didn't hesitate. Bailiffs, detain Mrs. Carson. Victoria fought them, screaming, clawing. This isn't fair. She manipulated all of you. You're all blind. That money is mine. They dragged her out, still screaming. Reed was arrested on the spot. Conspiracy to commit murder. Evidence tampering. Bribery. The charges kept coming. Morrison turned to me. Ms. Emily Carson, all charges against you are dismissed with prejudice. I am issuing a formal apology from this court. You were gravely wronged by this system. The prosecutor stood, looked sick. The DA's office will pursue maximum charges against Mrs. Carson and Detective Reed. Victoria's lawyer withdrew from the case immediately. Smart man. I stood there, shaking. James hugged me. For the first time in months, I could breathe. 3 months later, Victoria was convicted of first-degree murder. Life without parole. Detective Reed got 25 years for conspiracy and corruption. I inherited Dad's estate, all of it, exactly as he intended. I sold the house. Too many ghosts, too many bad memories. Used part of the money to start a foundation. Resources for people wrongly accused. Legal help. Advocacy. Dad would have liked that. The rest? I live quietly now. Small apartment in a different neighborhood. Nothing fancy. I'm still an ICU nurse. Mercy Hospital hired me back with a full apology and a raise. Turns out being proven innocent in a public trial is good PR. Some nights I watch that camera footage. Not for evidence anymore. Just to hear Dad's voice one last time. I fixed a mistake, Emmy. With the will. He knew. Somehow he knew what Victoria was. Maybe not the specifics, but enough to protect me. Victoria took his life. She tried to take mine too. But I'm still here. And she's not. Trust your gut. Document everything. And never underestimate what a desperate person will do for money. My father taught me to fight for what's right, even when the system's rigged against you. That lesson saved my life. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? You're not alone. Drop a below. We survivors stick together. And remember, the truth always comes out. Always.